A health hazard simply refers to any substance or a chemical that might prove to be dangerous if exposed to individuals. OSHA describes health hazards as any substance that has the potential to cause the following effects: skin irritation or corrosion, respiratory issues, aspiration hazards, eye damage or irritation, carcinogenicity, reproductive toxicity, specific target organ toxicity. Health hazards exist in almost all work environments. Hazards can be divided into several categories, such as chemical hazards include the use of chlorine or pesticides, which could cause skin irritation or corrosion. Physical hazards may include coldness, excessive heat or cold, or high amounts of radiation. Biological hazards may include the presence of mold or fungi in the building, stinging insects, animal or bird droppings, or airborne pathogens such as the cold. Sewage, human blood, or other blood products are also categorized as biological hazards. Ergonomic hazards in the workplace are perhaps the most common, often including bad body posture that puts excessive strain on a person's arms or wrists. There are psychological hazards that employers should know about as well. These include anxiety, workplace bullying, occupational stress, or excessive fatigue. To prevent exposure to health hazards in the workplace, we generally divide hazards into four main classes. 1. Corrosive hazards. 2. Toxic hazards. 3. Harmful hazards. 4. Irritative hazards. Corrosive substances can cause skin burns or may result in permanent damage to a person's eyes. As a result, it's important for employees to avoid contact with their eyes or skin and to avoid breathing the vapors. It's also necessary for employees to wear proper PPE to avoid exposure. These are substances that can cause life-threatening effects, even with limited exposure in very minuscule amounts. It is important that employees avoid all contact with the skin or breathe the substances in. They should also avoid swallowing them. Harmful hazards may result in long-term health effects even with limited exposure. Employees must not swallow, breathe, or come in contact with the substance. Exposure to such substances may result in irritation or result in some mild toxicity. It's imperative that such substances be kept away from the eyes or the skin, and steps must be taken to prevent release into the environment. Dusty or fume-laden air can cause lung diseases, e.g. in welders, quarry workers, or woodworkers. Metalworking fluids can grow bacteria and fungi, which cause dermatitis and asthma. Flowers, bulbs, fruit, and vegetables can cause dermatitis. Wet working, e.g. catering and cleaning, can cause dermatitis. Prolonged contact with wet cement in construction can lead to chemical burns and/or dermatitis. Benzene in crude oil can cause leukemia. Many other products or substances used at work can be harmful, such as paint, ink, glue, lubricant, detergent, and beauty products. The third, health caused by these substances used at work is preventable. Many substances can harm health, but used properly, they almost never do. Substances can also have other dangerous properties. They may be flammable. For example, solvent-based products may give off flammable vapor. Clouds of dust from everyday materials, such as wood dust or flour, can explode if ignited. You can find out by checking information that came with the product, e.g. a safety data sheet, asking the supplier, sales representative, and your trade association, looking in the trade press for health and safety information, checking on the internet, e.g. HSE's website pages for your trade, how might workers be exposed, by breathing in gases, fumes, mist or dust, contact with the skin, swallowing, contact with the eyes, skin puncture. Bear these in mind when you look at the tasks. Exposure by breathing in. Once breathed in, some substances can attack the nose, throat, or lungs, while others get into the body through the lungs and harm other parts of the body, e.g. the liver. Exposure by skin contact. Some substances damage skin, while others pass through it and damage other parts of the body. By direct contact with the substance, e.g. if you touch it or dip your hands in it, by splashing, by substances landing on the skin, e.g. airborne dust, by contact with contaminated surfaces. This includes contact with contamination inside protective gloves. Exposure by swallowing. People transfer chemicals from their hands to their mouths by eating, smoking, etc. without washing first. Exposure to the eyes. Some vapors, gases, and dusts are irritating to eyes. Caustic fluid splashes can damage eyesight permanently. Exposure by skin puncture. Risks from skin puncture such as butchery or needle stick injuries are rare, but can involve infections or very harmful substances, e.g., drugs. Health hazards should be controlled because exposure to health hazards can result in a series of negative effects on a person's body. In case proper treatment isn't provided to the employee who is exposed, they could suffer from either chronic or acute effects. Acute effects are any effects that occur soon after exposure. They last for a brief period of time and often escalate or diminish after a while. These can include simple things like skin irritation, or in some serious cases, can result in a lethal dose that eventually turns fatal. Chronic effects generally manifest after exposure to a health hazard over the long term. In this situation, the effects are generally long-lasting and often include carcinogenicity or mutagenicity. If health hazards aren't identified, it could result in serious injuries or health problems for workers, and it could also expose the company to costly litigation.